we have already covered off lists, which are collections of items. And in this video, we will have a look at two-dimensional lists, also known as, for short, 2D lists. A 2D list is essentially lists within a list, or you can call them multiple lists, or also known as multi-dimensional lists. And it represents a table-like structure with rows and columns. The outside or the outer list represents rows, and the inside list or the inner list represents a row of items or elements. And what we are going to do is create three lists of different places in different countries, and we are going to turn this into a two-dimensional list. So let's log into PyCharm, and we will do that now. We are now logged into PyCharm, and I'm going to paste my three lists: Turkey, UK and Canada. And we can see lists are created using square brackets, and we can see three items for each country. These are the three places associated to each of the countries. Now let's create another list. Let's call it FAV for favourite underscore places. So favourite places equals. Again, lists are created using square brackets. And in this list, we will place our three countries. Consist of the three lists we have created. So that's Turkey, UK and Canada. So this is our two-dimensional list. Our two-dimensional list is called favourite places. And this is a list made up of multiple lists: Turkey, UK and Canada. Next, we will print it to the console to make sure it prints. So let's print favourite underscore places to the console and run the file. I've accidentally added an X at the end of my list. Let's run the file again. And now I can see my three individual lists printed to the console. So this prints all of the items in all of the lists. And the three items are grouped together, separated by the square brackets identifying each list. Now, if we wanted to print a particular list, we would use indexes. And to do this, we would use square brackets. And we would specify the position of the index starting with 0. So Turkey, the first list, would be represented with a 0 and so on. So it'd be 0, 1 and 2. So let's go with Canada, which is 2, and let's run the file. Now we can see it's just printed out Canada. But what if we wanted to print out a particular item in Canada? Let's go with Vancouver. This would be again another index. This would again start with 0. So Toronto would be 0, Vancouver 1 and Calgary 2. So we need 1. We will do this by adding a second set of square brackets. And in here we would specify the index of 2. Now let's run the file. And as we can see, it's printed out Calgary to the console. Vancouver would be 1. So let's print out Vancouver. And of course, if we wanted to print out something within the UK, that's 0, 1, we'll change the index in the first set of brackets, which controls the list, to a 1. And let's print out London. So that would be 0, 1, 2. So London is 2. And let's run the file. So you've got the point. The first index represents the lists and the second index represents the items within the lists. We can also modify an item. Let's change Leeds to Newcastle, and that would be favourite underscore places, set of square brackets. We are now looking at list number 1, and then another set of square brackets, and Leeds is the first item, so that's a 0, equals Newcastle. So let's run the file. Actually, let's change this to 1 and 0 as well. Let's run the file, and we can see it's printed out Newcastle, so it's modified Leeds to Newcastle. Now, if you don't want to separately name each individual list, you can also do this. So now my variable favourite underscore places consists of these three lists. And if I run the file to make sure it runs, we can see it's picked out Leeds due to the indexes of 1 and 0. Now we can also iterate through our lists using a nested for loop as well. So to iterate through the lists, we would type for my underscore list in favourite places. So with this line, we are iterating through each of the lists in favourite underscore places, which will be these three lists here. Now, to iterate through each item within the list, we would use a nested loop within the loop. And this would iterate through the individual items within the list. So it would be for item in my underscore list, and then it would be print item. Let's run the file. Of course, I'm missing a colon. So let's put the colons in place and run the file again. Now we can see it's listed out all of the items in all of the lists. So it's iterated through each of the lists using the first for loop, and then it's iterated through each of the items as well using the second for loop. And that's an overview on two-dimensional lists.